Many concerns have been raised regarding the time lost by the grade 12s. The Council for Quality Assurance in General and Further Education and Training, Umalusi, says they are aware of the damage to the country's education system that's been caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Umalusi's CEO, Dr. Mafu Rakometsi, says although he is well aware of the challenges, he's not in support of the lowering of the academic standards. He joins us now live via Skype. Dr. Rakometsi, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the SABC News channel.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon to your viewers at home.
Thank you so much indeed, and happy Father's Day to you. So as we get onto it, what's your take on the impact that the COVID-19 has had on the matric class of 2020?
COVID-19 has had a devastating effect on the education system. Unfortunately, it is not only the education system that has been affected. Every sector of our lives has been affected. What is important is to say to ourselves, facing these unprecedented times, what do we do? What do we do? Do we rally around each other to say we are going to still reach our goals as a people? Or do we abdicate ourselves and just throw our hands in the air and say, we are defeated? Indeed, we're facing serious challenges. We have lost 2 months, 3 months of teaching and learning time. We have to strive to ensure that we regain all that lost time.
And we know that, Dr. Rakometsi, yours as Umalusi is quality assurance. So are you worried perhaps about quality not being affected, or rather being affected by this coronavirus?
Well, quality will be affected if we don't work hard to ensure that we still meet the prescripts of the law. We derive our mandate from our founding act, the General and Further Education and Training Quality Assurance Act, GenFEDCO Act. We derive our mandate from the National Qualifications Framework Act. We are the creatures of statutes. We have been created through statutes. And we have to follow all the prescripts of the law in quality assuring whatever we have. Hence, we've been very vocal about not trimming down the curriculum, not cutting certain elements of the curriculum, but ensuring that learners are tested on the full scope of the curriculum so as to ensure that we protect the currency of the National Senior Certificate in South Africa. We should note that as South Africans, we are competing in the global village. Our learners find themselves in the UK, they find themselves in Australia, they find themselves in the United States of America. They find themselves all over the world. And it cannot be that in 1 year we have a quality that has been ramped down. We have the curriculum that has been toned down, that has been, reduced in whatever manner. We can't tinker with quality because that will affect the quality of the curriculum and the quality of the qualification and its currency. We have to remain respected as a country by the outside world. And even the universities have expectations in terms of standards. And the employers also have expectations in terms of standards. We cannot disappoint the parents, we cannot disappoint the children by drumming down the standards.
All right, so you're basically saying that from where you're sitting, you don't see any opportunity of downgrading or perhaps the trimming down of the quality of education this year?
We cannot. If we do, we are going to be committing genocide, because these learners who graduate with their National Senior Certificate this year are going to be stigmatized for the rest of their lives. We as Umalusi, we are a standard-setting body. We are the vanguard of quality in South Africa. We are the last line of defense when it comes to quality. We have to ensure that standards are maintained. If we allow standards to be lowered, we'll be acting ultra vires. We'll be acting beyond our powers. We derive our powers from the pieces of legislation that I referred to earlier on. And if we act outside the scope and mandate of those pieces of legislation, we will be breaking the law. There is a rule of law in South Africa, and we can only act within the parameters of the law.
But what needs to happen, Dr. Rakometsi, going forward, so to ensure that the standard is not compromised and the quality? Because what we know for sure is that final examination papers were set as early as last year already. So I suppose from what you're telling us, we can't have that compromise situation to maybe say, okay, these kids were not at school for 2 or more months, therefore they've missed on a lesson, this is what we can do. So I believe from what you're telling us is that there will have to be those catch-up plans that are put in place to ensure, once again, that quality and the standards are not compromised.
What is key is that there's to be intense catch-up programs. Intense, and the learners have to be focusing on their books on a continuous basis. They have to be studying consistently. Now, because we don't know what pattern this pandemic is going to take, if the worst comes, we may as well just postpone the writing of the examinations. And in that regard, we'll get direction from the minister. Let me paint a few scenarios for you and say the examinations are scheduled to be written in October, November. And in October, November, if some learners will not be, they can be allowed to write next year sometime. And those that are ready can be allowed to write. But if there's a big wave of this pandemic to an extent that you're not able to write in October, November, the rest of everybody can write actually early next year. That determination can be made by the minister in collaboration with the Minister of Higher Education and Training to ensure that universities, also in terms of their admissions, they are able to postpone the admissions into universities for students who are coming from the high schools. So it has to be a collaborative effort between the Department of Basic Education and the Department of Higher Education and Training if the worst comes our way.
All right. So as you say, and I suppose whatever changes may happen, because this is a value change. So it will mean that if this particular change happens, that exams are not written in October, November of this year, it means that the higher education department as well will also have to make some adjustment, as you say, in terms of rescheduling their registrations and admission dates as well. So it's not going to be an easy one for the Minister of Basic Education to make.
We live in unprecedented times. We live in difficult times, and such difficult times call for collaboration. The Department of Basic Education under Minister Inji Motshekga cannot work alone. It will have to work with the Department of Higher Education and Training. It will have to work with Universities South Africa, which is USF, which is made up of the vice chancellors of the Universities South Africa. We will have to have a concerted joint effort in order to defeat the enemy, this invisible enemy, COVID-19, and to ensure that we salvage the year for learners and we ensure that their futures are not compromised in any way.
All right, we're losing that line. Dr. Rakometsi, thank you so much for coming through. That's the Chief Executive Officer for Umalusi, Dr. Mafu Rakometsi, talking to us about as to whether he believes quality will be compromised or not for the matric class of 2020 due to the COVID-19, and basically explaining to us what is likely to happen if the matriculants are not to write their final examinations in October and November of this year.